G'day, it's fugitive Australian journalist Shane Delling from the website and YouTube channel Kangaroo Court of Australia. Now, the former ABC chair, Ita Buttrose, was in the witness stand today, the 11th of February 2025, for the Antoinette Lattouf unlawful termination case against ABC. And Ita Buttrose perjured herself clean as a whistle. There's no doubt about it. And the key evidence is the evidence that Ita Buttrose gave, and also that contradicted the evidence that the managing director of the ABC, David Anderson, gave. And that's supported with other media reports. It's also supported with a couple of paragraphs from David Anderson's witness statement. And I'll also show you a video from Media Watch on Monday night, which supports it as well. Then I'll talk you through the key elements, which makes it very obvious why is it so important. And why did Ita Buttrose perjure herself? What motivated her? Now, Ita Buttrose lied in the witness stand about why she went over the managing director's head and started dealing directly with the senior manager at the ABC. Ita Buttrose said she was told by the managing director to do it. That flies in the face of logic and also the managing director's affidavit, witness statement, and also what was said on the Media Watch on Monday night. And the lie was so obvious, I wrote about it a few days ago before Media Watch broadcast their program, because it was so obvious that she was lying and deceiving and she abused the processes. Now, when Ita Buttrose lied on the witness stand today, I tweeted this on Twitter. Ita Buttrose begged lie under oath. Ita claimed ABC's managing director, David Anderson, told her to forward complaints about Antoinette Lattouf to ABC's Chris Oliver Taylor, who's the content manager there, so he could learn what happens when you employ someone without doing proper checks. Hashtag it never happened, hashtag perjury time. Then I did a second post which said Ita gave evidence she had never before sent complaints directly to ABC's Chris Oliver Taylor. In the 5 years she was the ABC's chair, and I only did it because the ABC's managing director, David Anderson, told her to. Reality, Ita decided to override Anderson to make sure Lattouf was sacked. Now, the Sydney Morning Herald reported the same issue. In inverted commas, Anderson asked her to forward the emails onto content chief Chris Oliver Taylor so he could learn the folly of not checking the references of somebody that we hired, says Buttrose. Now, the media website, Mumbrella, said in a revealing line, repeated twice, Buttrose said David Anderson had wanted her to email Chief Content Officer Chris Oliver Taylor to teach him a lesson about the folly of not checking references. Now, in a minute, I'll show you the full segment from Media Watch on Monday night. It goes for 7 minutes. But I'll just show you this clip of Linton Besser in relation to that exact part where David Anderson wasn't happy about Ita Buttrose going over his head. Let's watch that.
David Anderson wasn't responding because he was out at lunch with none other than Ita Buttrose, who had, against Anderson's wishes, been bombarding Oliver Taylor with the Lattouf complaints and piling on the pressure. So, having heard nothing from the boss, Oliver Taylor made the critical decision to pull the trigger.
Now, I'll show you the full 7 minutes in a minute, but firstly I'll read out what's in David Anderson's affidavit. On page 14, at paragraph 59, it says, during my meeting with Ita Buttrose on the morning of Tuesday, the 19th of December 2023, we had a conversation to the following effect. Ms. Buttrose, how on earth did it happen that an activist has ended up hosting ABC Radio? Now, Ita Buttrose refers to Antoinette Lattouf as an activist, not a journalist. But Ita Buttrose referred to herself as being a journalist when she was in the witness stand today. A bit rich. You know, the affidavit goes on to say, me, which is David Anderson, I don't know. Ms. Buttrose, whoever hired her, do they understand what the job is? They must not have checked references or background properly before hiring her. David Anderson says, our assessment is that she hasn't done anything wrong. She is a casual employee whose engagement will come to an end on Friday. The decision is that she will stay on air until then. Ita Buttrose, was it Steve Ahern's decision to hire her? David Anderson, yes, probably, he said. Ita Buttrose, I'm going to send all my complaints to Chris Oliver Taylor. David Anderson, I'd prefer you send them to me. Ita Buttrose, no, I'm going to send them to Chris so that he understands what we are fielding here and he can draft a response for them all. David Anderson, they will be avoiding discussing Israel-Gaza this week. When they say they're going to avoid discussing Israel-Gaza, they're talking about Antoinette Lattouf on the radio show she was hosting. Now, some people might think that's a minor issue. Did David Anderson tell Ita Buttrose to go directly to Chris Oliver Taylor? It was Ita Buttrose to decide to go directly herself. Well, it's very important from a power perspective because the chairperson has the most power. And if the chairperson goes directly to a staff member, overriding the CEO, bypassing them, that person who's been communicated with from the chair knows that they've got no protection. The CEO's not protecting them, and the chairperson's mighty angry. That's why they're going over the top of the managing director / CEO. I published another video on this issue a few days ago, and I explained that in better detail. And that's titled ABC's Ita Buttrose to Feel the Heat on the Witness Stand in the Federal Court. And in that video, I said, and I quoted from The Guardian reported on the same issue, Oliver Taylor said he was put between a rock and a hard place when it came to Latouf's position as a casual presenter on the ABC Radio Sydney. He detailed pressure from above, from colleagues, including the then chair, Ita Buttrose, over Latouf's appointment. He said the chair, Buttrose, was directly writing to me, the chair's office, and the chair were directly forwarding me more and more concerns, naming me as a respondent in the claims. There was pressure from above, I accept that. That's what Oliver Taylor told the court. And David Anderson and the chair, Ita Buttrose, would have known that. They would have known he felt a lot more pressure because given the chair had gone over the top of the managing director, David Anderson. And I go on to say in that video, Ita Buttrose's big problem on the witness stand. And this is a couple of days before Ita Buttrose gave evidence. Why did Ita Buttrose communicate directly with ABC content chief, Chris Oliver Taylor? Once Buttrose did that, she was overriding the managing director in the day-to-day operational matter. And both managing director David Anderson and Chris Oliver Taylor would have been aware of that and felt pressured to act, felt pressured to sack Antoinette Latouf. I go on to say, the chairperson of any company or organisation should only be dealing with the CEO, managing director, with the exception of when lower-level managers present to the board on various issues. Sometimes I'll get the finance director to go and present to the board, and might be the marketing manager, etc. So sometimes they will deal directly with the board, but only at a board meeting when they're getting presented to from the lower-level managers, not on a day-to-day issue. And I go on to say, once Ita Buttrose started emailing Chris Oliver Taylor directly with complaints from the Lawyers for Israel WhatsApp group, telling the group that Chris Oliver Taylor was dealing with it, she was also in effect telling Oliver Taylor to do what the Lawyers for Israel WhatsApp group wanted. Now, the lawyers and barristers for the ABC would have known this conflict was going to rear its head, contradictory evidence between Chris Oliver Taylor, in effect, and also the David Anderson, the managing director. They're both on one side, and on the other side is Ita Buttrose. And the lawyers and barristers for the ABC and also the ABC management knew this was going to be pinpointed by the lawyers acting and the barristers acting for Antoinette Latouf, and it has been. Now, Ita Buttrose knew her actions were abuse of power, and that's why she's lied. She couldn't come up with a better lie. David Anderson wasn't going to cop it. Maybe Anderson was lying too. We don't know what was really happened. Maybe Anderson said, look, I'm not going to sack it. And well, Buttrose said, well, stuff you then. I'm going to force the issue and I'm going over your head. Maybe something like that happened. But the bottom line is Ita Buttrose overstepped her mark, abused her position of power, and she started emailing Oliver Taylor directly, trying to put pressure on him, obviously, to sack Antoinette Latouf. And it was exposed today that Buttrose not only was emailing the Lawyers for Israel WhatsApp group directly, that the various complainants, a whole heap of them were complaining. They ganged up to try and get Antoinette Latouf sacked. But after she was sacked, Ita Buttrose emailed those same people to tell them that Latouf had been sacked, in effect telling them they had succeeded and she had done what they wanted. Now, as I said, I've done a previous video on this issue, and I've actually done two. So I'll put links to both those videos below this video on YouTube so you can watch them. I'll play you the full 7 minutes of Media Watch for Monday night. I think that fills in a lot of the gaps, just the 7 minutes in relation to Antoinette Latouf and also Ita Buttrose and ABC sacking her. And they go saying, isn't it great, the ABC Media Watch standing up, exposing the lies at the ABC, the corruption at the ABC? Well, it's taken them 15 months to do it. So I'll play that to you now.
Now, the slow-moving train wreck that has derailed the ABC and much of its top brass.
The ABC says complaints from the so-called pro-Israel lobby had no influence on their decision to take journalist Antoinette Latouf off air. Ms Latouf is suing the ABC for unlawful dismissal.
The sacking of fill-in radio presenter Antoinette Lattouf back in 2023 has become one of the worst self-inflicted wounds at the ABC in recent memory. And at the heart of the controversy is the ABC's ever acute desperation to, yes, avoid controversy.
Mr Anderson, have these proceedings damaged trust in the ABC?
3 days into her week-long shift in December 23, Antoinette Lattouf was stood down after posting a Human Rights Watch report which alleged Israel was using starvation as a weapon of war. She was told the post breached ABC policy, leaving Lattouf confused. After all, the ABC itself had published the very same allegations. Her removal is now the subject of an ongoing federal court hearing, with more to come. But the evidence thus far has revealed an extraordinary 72 hours inside a public broadcaster seemingly so spooked by a barrage of complaints, its chairwoman went searching for any excuse to have Lattouf removed.
Why can't she come down with flu or COVID or a stomach upset?
Many of the complaints, coordinated by pro-Israel advocates, claimed Antoinette Lattouf's social media history, expressing anger at Israel's military campaign, rendered her unsuitable as an ABC radio presenter and began piling in from the very first day she was on air. In a conversation that first day, the ABC claims Lattouf was told not to post anything controversial about the Gaza conflict. Lattouf remembers differently that she agreed to restrict herself only to information from reputable sources. What's clear, however, is that Lattouf was not covering the war on her show. Despite this, ABC chair Ita Buttrose, apparently sick of receiving complaints, wanted something done and sent multiple emails to Managing Director David Anderson and Chief Content Officer Chris Oliver-Taylor, including this on the night of Lattouf's second show.
Has Antoinette been replaced? I am over getting emails about her.
When David Anderson told Buttrose the presenter would remain in place until Friday, Ita was not pleased. And between wrapping Christmas presents at 10 p.m. at night, she fired off the notorious COVID email, which also said,
I have a whole clutch more of complaints. We owe her nothing. We should be in damage control.
The next day, Anderson assured her we are absolutely in damage control, and he also pushed back.
If we do remove her, there will be claims of doing so without cause. We have caved to pro-Israeli lobbying, and she hasn't actually breached impartiality.
Internally, cooler heads had been urging caution. The acting editorial director, Simon Melkman, warned,
I don't believe there's any justification for pulling her off air.
That evening, the head of the content division, Chris Oliver-Taylor, agreed removing Lattouf was a bad idea.
The blowback will be phenomenal.
Prescient, no? By this point, the ABC's leadership team was on a hair trigger, and it seems obvious to us the mere whiff of any further controversy would have seen Lattouf brought down. Then an email arrived from The Australian.
Is the ABC investigating Lattouf's conduct, including her social media use relating to commentary she has made about the Israel-Gaza war?
Soon after, the ABC spotted the Human Rights Watch post on Lattouf's Instagram account, and Chris Oliver-Taylor, believing she had contravened a direct order, began calling and texting his boss, David Anderson, to raise the alarm.
I have no option but to stand her down.
David Anderson wasn't responding because he was out at lunch with none other than Ita Buttrose, who had, against Anderson's wishes, been bombarding Oliver-Taylor with the Lattouf complaints and piling on the pressure. So, having heard nothing from the boss, Oliver-Taylor made the critical decision to pull the trigger.
The Australian are going to run a yarn. I'm going to action this now and try and beat the story.
Still at the restaurant, Anderson finally telephoned his content director.
Are you sure?
Yes. We've got no choice.
OK.
David Anderson did nothing to check the Instagram post himself, nor to ask for more time before Oliver-Taylor brought down the hammer. When he hung up the phone, he gave Ita the Christmas present she'd been longing for. Lattouf was gone. In the ABC's haste, it didn't give her a chance to defend herself, a point admitted by Anderson last week.
The ABC's managing director says he believed there was potentially a step missing when journalist Antoinette Lattouf was taken off air. The missing step could have included a discussion with Ms Lattouf.
What's now clear is the ABC's first misstep occurred long before she walked into a studio, because no one at the ABC had bothered to thoroughly consider her social media feed. And since the Hamas attack on Israel, she'd taken a clear and unequivocal position in favour of the Palestinian people.
You can and should condemn illegal military occupation of Palestine. That's been happening for 75 years.
But having made the decision to hire her, the ABC then owed Antoinette Lattouf a fair go. Instead, it hung her out to dry. Both Buttrose and Anderson have denied that outside pressure played any role in these tawdry events, and we will hear from Ita Buttrose this week. But the evidence to date casts a long shadow over those denials. The ABC may yet win the case, but if so, it will be a hollow victory. So far, it seems clear to us that all it took for the organisation to abandon its most basic obligations to one of its on-air presenters was a 3-day email campaign and a single inquiry from the Australian newspaper. You'd forgive the thousands of other ABC staffers across the country for looking over their shoulder from here on in.
Now, as I said at the beginning, I've published another video in relation to this matter, and I've actually published a couple. I'll put the links to those 2 videos below this video on YouTube so you can watch them as well. Fills in a lot of the gaps as well. And Kangaroo Court of Australia's independent media. I publish a website and a YouTube channel, and I'm 100% crowdfunded from viewers like yourself, so please make a donation. You can donate by either PayPal or Patreon. And you can donate any amount, $3, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30, $40, $50 a month, whatever suits your budget. It all helps out a big way. Or you can do one-off donations. And a link for the PayPal account and also Patreon account will be below this video on YouTube and also my website. And also there's a link there for the donations page on my website with other donation options. And please share this video on social media and please hit the like and subscribe button. Other than that, thank you for your time and have a good day.